Hey, so we're back. So I want to start this video with a little bit of a personal story, and then we're going to kind of get into what to expect and some things to think about moving forward. So one of the things that I've been dealing with for well over a year now is some intractable back pain. I apparently did something to the rib attachments at my spine from that horrible experience at Amazon. And I've spent the better part of a year and a half having no one take me seriously because apparently when you say things to medical people like costovertebral attachments, they think that you're clearly not qualified to know what the hell you're talking about. So many chiropractors, an acupuncturist, nurse practitioner, and some drugs later, I finally found someone to take me seriously and got an MRI the other day, and I'm going and see the back specialist today so we can see exactly what's going on. Because the x-rays did reveal some calcium deposits developing T7, T11, right? So now calcium deposits, just so you know, are kind of like bony calluses. Anywhere you get an irritation on your body's going to respond by laying down extra tissue to act as a bit of a cushion or a protecting agent. The bone also does the same thing. So where you find calcium deposits, typically you find places where there's irritation to the bone. So the bone's literally trying to lay down its own form of callus. So finally somebody took me seriously. We got the x-rays done, and there it is. Lo and behold, I wasn't imagining things. That was exactly where I said it was for over a year and a half. I love the place that I live. Anyway, so here's the thing, right? In situations like this, you can't fix a problem unless you know what the problem is. All you can do is manage the symptoms and live with the discomfort, any inconvenience, and hope for the best. The problem is when you're constantly living at suboptimal levels, it really impairs your ability to grow and thrive and do things that you need to do. And your quality of life will, of course, go down with it, right? Because you can't do what you need to do. And anybody who's ever had back pain, like you know exactly what I'm talking about. So because your spine is the support system that holds everything else together. If your back's out, everything's out, okay? So it's important to know where the problem is so you can fix it, because that's the only way you can move on with your life and actually move upward and onward, as opposed to degenerating into just a whole big pile of less than optimal living, right? So with that said, I had a reading. I was at a little mini fair, whatever these kids are calling it these days, and sat down to get a reading from somebody because, that's what you do, right? It was not, I didn't expect it to be a great reading, and it was not even close. It was really actually kind of a bit of a sham, which is disappointing. But I also believe that when Spirit needs to get a message to you, they will use whatever is nearby and available that you're listening to get the message to you. So if it's a goat, they'll use a goat to get the message to you. In this case, it was somebody who's a bit of a con artist, or had a tremendous amount of overwhelming conceit about the psychic that she is not. Anyway, in the course of this long rambling, blah, 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 oh my God, it was so bad. She's like, and, you take the world affairs really seriously, like, blah, 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 which, listen, if you're over 40, that's not unusual. If you look like you've got half a brain and you're over 40, you're paying attention to world affairs, because this is the world we're leaving behind for the kids. Now, granted, there are some people who don't pay attention at all, but you can usually tell who those women are, and men, over 40, they just don't care about what's going on around them except their personal lives. So this was not a big stretch as far as a cold reading goes. So her advice to me was, Spirit's advice to me was, that to stop watching the news. It's just not good. Like, you should stop watching that stuff. And this really doesn't set well. I was done with the reading at that point. So I'm like, you clearly are one of these people who's got your head so firmly planted up your behind that like nothing exists outside of that. It's all love, light, airy, fairy tales. And while there is some merit in not overdosing on bad news, okay, it's also very important, again, that we know where the problems are so we know how to fix them. All right. So, the thing about it is, in the new age, there's this thing where it's just like, oh, I can't deal with the negative energy, like, oh, be gone, sort of stuff. And it's this idea that if we can just push these things out of our awareness, we can make them go away. and our lives will be much improved by it. You know, so people who upset us, situations that make us uncomfortable, you know, things that make us think about things that don't make us happy, like, oh, be gone. And that only works when you're a teenager and other people are paying the bills and taking care of the problems. You know, that literally only works when other people are handling the world and you get to, you know, la 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 through life. Okay, tra la 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 la. And in metaphysics, the problem is in metaphysics, there's a teaching that's very much about visualizing the outcomes that you want to see, staying focused on the positives, right? You know, seeing what you need to see so that you can move forward towards that thing. It's a navigational tool. So people often misinterpret what that means. So here's the thing. True metaphysicians understand that it is a twofold process, okay? So on the one hand, we need to stay focused on the positive and things that need to move us forward and see the light side of things, because we are light workers. We need to be able to see the light to navigate to it. So we have to keep our fixed vision on the light, okay? But at the same time, you're here in the physical world, you know, participating in the physical experience, which means that the other side, the other hand, you also have to stay aware of what's going on. You can't live in this cotton candy, airy fairy fantasy world where nothing bad exists because I don't pay attention to it. We have to be aware of what's going on in the world around us. We have to be able to see the pinpoints of light hidden in these things so that we can recognize when progress is being made, and more important, so that we know where the problems are so we can fix them as we go along. Because you're a light worker, which means that you're here to do work, not la 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 la, like bounce through life like a bunny without having to deal with any of these things, right? And no participation and no responsibility for the outcomes. So I now I have an opportunity to go find out exactly what the problem is with my back, which means we can now work on fixing it so I can move forward. And it's only because I stayed focused on the fact that there's something wrong. I trust myself to know that there's something here, and whoever I'm dealing with right now might not be able to see it, but I know it's there. I have this vision. I have this awareness. I know this is real and this is possible, that there's something there and it's going to get fixed. All right. And it's the same thing with current world events. Like it's pretty scary out here right now. And if you've been paying attention for any length of time, like the last 2 years, it's gotten ridiculous. Just, oh my God, right? So, and for those of you who just got on board, yeah, some of us have been seeing this trajectory for a while. So the thing about it is a lot of people are all like, oh my God, it's so awful. And it is. But the thing to remember is that we're in a place in time right now where we are revisiting a lot of old issues that we've needed to have conversations about, and we're having those conversations. These are conversations we could not have had 20 years ago. These are literally forces and numbers of people who are on board with a higher level of consciousness and a greater understanding and a greater sense of compassion than existed 20, 30, 40 years ago. We are able now to have civil protest, and really, I mean, up against the most corrupt administration we've ever seen in this country in forever. And we're able to have protests, and we're able to speak out, and we're able to have these conversations without college students getting shot down by the military on campus, like back in the 60s here, you know, or in China not that long ago in Tiananmen Square. We are in such an amazing place right now in spite of everything that's going south and backwards. Okay, so as a light worker, it's important that we do pay attention to current events and that we do look for the light in the darkness of these situations, because we need to know where the problems are so we can move forward and we can pull everybody else up with them and bring them in our wake as we head to the light, right? We head to more lighter, positive, like visions of what the world should be, while we maintain our vision of what's possible. Okay, and what the world should and will look like. We have to hold these two visions. This is why we have two hands. Okay, this is why we have left and right and all sorts of things in pairs and balance. We have to have them both. Okay, because two hands get the job done. So with that said, my friends, all right, if anybody tries to sell you on this business about, oh, well, you just don't watch the news, it's just not good. No. If you choose to not be aware of what's going on around you, you are also choosing to allow other people to dictate the rules of your life and the reality that you're going to live in and your children are going to live in moving forward over the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Okay. And if you choose to not take responsibility for your participation, which includes inaction and lack of participation in these situations, you're going to get what you get, and you can't hold anybody else responsible for that. And there is going to be a point when all the tra la 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 isn't going to help, and it's not going to save you. We have to participate, and we have to focus on what's good and right and positive, and we have to hold a vision of the world we want to move forward and leave behind for our children. But we can't do that without being present and aware and conscious of what's going on around us right now, so that we can see where the problems are. All right. And anybody who tells you otherwise clearly is irresponsible or lazy or just doesn't care about anything except their own personal comforts. And that's not somebody who's in a great position to give anybody life advice. So there's that. Now for the astrology. All right, so we have an eclipse coming up in July at 10 Cancer. It will be activated at the end of this month and the beginning of July. So pay very, very special attention to any house in your chart or any planet that you have that carries 10 degrees Cancer or Capricorn or Aries or Libra. The 10 degrees of the cardinal signs are the ones we want to watch. Where you carry the 10-degree Cancer is where the eclipse will occur. This is where we can expect to see some major movement and shifting going on in our personal lives. This should not be bad because this eclipse will be trining Neptune in Pisces, which, contrary to some people's opinions, Neptune in Pisces has actually been very good. So it will be making a very, very wide trine, but it is a trine by sign and element to Neptune in Pisces. So we should see some really brilliant, good stuff coming out of this. And Lord knows we need that. We really, really need that. It will also be making sextiles to these Taurus planets, always a bonus. And the only thing that might be a little problematic is it will be by sign and element making an opposition to these Capricorn planets. That's Saturn, South Node, Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. So, with every beautiful rose, there's a thorn, right? So with that said, there is the possibility that some of us may be dealing with some particularly sticky or uncomfortable situations. It's just par for the course. But it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Remember that eclipse in Cancer will also be with the North Node, which means whatever is happening right now is going to release us from old situations and open a window or a door for us to pass through so we can make a quantum leap into the future, into healthier, less toxic things for ourselves. So try to get through this the best that you can. Some people may be having a little bit of a comeuppance, as it were, or maybe dealing with some very, very old karmic issues from previous lifetimes, if you believe in reincarnation. But at the end of the day, this is a point of liberation that will allow many of us to leapfrog, out of a quagmire of old karma and old debts to people and old situations, relationships, and move forward, be released from some old things. So there's a lot of positive in there. And remember, while we're focusing on the positive and what we want to see happen, we also have to be participating and aware of what's going on right now, because we need to know where the problem is so we can fix it. So take this eclipse as your opportunity to figure out where the problem is so you can fix it so that you can move forward in your life. All right, bye.